Welcome to Not What I Thought. I'm Erica.
I'm Yolanda.
And I'm Becca. We're therapists, entrepreneurs, and perfectly imperfect humans.
We first met during a business owner retreat where we became fast friends because we're not afraid to be real and ask the hard questions about life. What we thought it would be like, how messy it actually is, and the courage it takes to create the life we want.
We continue to build our friendship and personal growth through our own retreats. We find the deepest connection in sharing our struggles and finding what we have in common rather than what divides us.
We're breaking down hard topics on our podcast and together have conversations about what it takes to find real talk, real support, and real rest for professional women. We're glad you're here. Join us on your favorite podcast platform.
All right. I am so excited because we have someone very special joining us today. This is our first Not What I Thought interview with someone outside of the three of us, outside of Becca and Erica and myself, Yolanda. So I would like for us to meet Alina Klein and get to hear her Not What I Thought story. I think it's an amazing one. And I can't wait for her to share it and for the audience to hear it. So, Alina, without further ado, would you like to jump in and just start by sharing your story?
Sure, I will do my best. I'm full disclosure, not the best storyteller of all time, but I will share what happened and then you guys can ask questions and maybe that will prompt further discussion. So,
Yeah.
um, my not what I thought story centers around motherhood and how I came to be a mother. I am what is known more broadly as a single mother by choice or an SMBC. I didn't know that term before I became a single mother by choice, but I learned that that's what it's called once I decided to go that route. So, um, I guess a little bit about me. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I actually, also full disclosure, worked under Yolanda for several years. So she's a mentor to me, and I've known her and Shaman very well. So my path to motherhood centers around the fact that when I was probably like 11 years old, I always knew I wanted to be a mom. Like I don't know what it was inside of me. I just knew that this is something that was important in my life and would be something that I wanted to fulfill. What I didn't know was the that I wanted the whole everything that came with it, like marriage and traditional this, that, and the other. So, I worked really hard as a kid, as a young adult, in my early 30s, not only on the like financial side of my life to be able to be financially independent, to be able to support a family if I chose to have one. I always knew that I would be someone who would support my family financially. And that was really important to me. But I also knew emotionally that I wanted to do the work to be able to be the kind of mother that my future child deserved. So when I talk about emotionally, I just mean like lots of therapy, lots of inner growth work. I recovered in my late 20s, early 30s from disordered eating. I've done a lot of generational trauma work. I come from um, Holocaust survivors on both sides, my mom and my dad. So, we have a lot of stuff in the DNA that was passed down that I didn't understand when I was really little, and that I was able to understand more as my brain developed and as I got older. So, a lot of work was done prior to making this decision to be a mother, and that was important to me. My mom had my brother and I when she was 21 and 23 years old, and so nothing like no shade on having kids that young, but I can't even imagine. I know Yolanda, you had
Yeah.
children very young, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it, I'm just like, I was a mess. I would have like been such a mess, you know? So there's pluses and minuses of both, but I'm very grateful that I was able to do some of that work before becoming a mom.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Am I on the right track? Is this
Yeah.
Yeah,
so far so good?
I just want to say, like, I'm so impressed as you're talking about like all of this intentionality
Mhm.
behind getting yourself to a place where you are ready for this. Like, clearly so important. And I have my youngest child is 11 right now, and I'm thinking about what she would say she wants to do with her life, and just like, it's
Mhm.
not this, right? Not that she wouldn't
Mhm.
be, but like, wow, it's like such a through line of how important this is to you. And I'm wondering if you could
Mm,
talk about like, because I heard you say that I wanted all the other, I thought that it was going to come with all the other things, the marriage
mhm.
and the family, right? Um, and like, where was there a sort of tipping point where you said, I'm doing this for me
Mm.
and I'm moving ahead with it?
Okay, that's a good question. So, I think part of what goes along with being so intentional is also being a little bit kind of rigid in your thinking. And,
We wouldn't know
I,
anything about
yeah,
rigidity. No.
Know about
Mm-mm.
that.
and, that, right. Something we all have in common, these overachiever therapists.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, so part of what came along with being, uh, from a family where there was generational trauma is that like relationally, I had a lot of fear of getting into situations that would not be good for me or a child. And so that really prevented me from maybe even wanting the traditional setup, like I knew that I wanted never want like, my parents got divorced when I was young, and I knew I never wanted to have to split my time with a child 50-50. Like, I was like, I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna risk that. So, I guess it came to a point where I was so career oriented from, I have a master's in business that I got in my 20s. I got my master's in social work in my 30s, and I was, like, all the time I was just pushing, pushing, pushing on making sure my career was secure, that I got to a point where I was, like, 36, 37, 38, where I was like, "I need to make a decision, because if I don't make a decision, the decision's going to be made for me." So, I think it was probably around the tail end of my mid-30s, like 36, 37, where I was like, I might be with someone that I want to do this with, but I don't wanna, like, hang everything on that hat on that, hook or whatever. So, I just decided that this is something I was gonna do, and if, the right the person in my life was gonna be good with that, great, and if not, then I was just gonna move forward anyway. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was more like time.
Mhm.
I know now women have kids well into their 40s. It's always been something that growing up, it's like you can't have a kid. You're like old if you have a kid after 35. So I think I just wanted to make sure I could have a healthy child.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that idea of you're old at 35 to have a kid.
I know.
When
So
I was in the
crazy.
doctor's office at 29, my doctor was like, "At your age, you really need to be getting into the infertility treatments more aggressively than I currently was." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So,
Hmm.
um, I'm so intrigued though by this conversation with your partner at that time when you said, "Okay, I made my own decision about this." How did that
Hmm.
go in terms of, "Hey, this is
So
not what I thought, like, idea."
yeah. So full disclosure, I was with a woman at the time. My partner was a woman, so we couldn't have biological kids together. But even during that process, this was something that I knew I wanted to do, and I was very clear that this was going to be a decision I made. Unfortunately, that relationship did not continue after I had a child, because it just wasn't the right environment for me to raise my daughter in. But for me and her. But I don't know. I guess I'm just someone who I will once I make my mind up, like that's it, I do it and, gonna be along for the ride, great. If not, that's okay.
And has motherhood been what you thought it would be?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y-
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
even the
yes and no.
process,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
go
even the
ahead.
process, if you want to speak more to like
Mhm.
coming to this point of saying, I'm moving forward with
Mhm.
this dream and this goal of having a child, um, you know, single mother by choice. Um, Anything that you would like to share with all of us about
Mhm.
even making that decision or that process, how that was for you?
I think that I didn't know what I was getting into, like, before you have a kid, you don't know what like, I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea what it was gonna be to be a parent, and it is so hard.
Hmm.
So, I think that the process of choosing like, I did a lot of research. I'm someone who, crosses my T's and dots my I's. So, even from I remember taking a webinar from this fertility company that was like talking about donors and how to choose a donor. And like, I remember this one nurse practitioner saying that she had had a child by egg donor, and that because she couldn't have kids with her biological eggs. And she said, at some point, you just have to make a decision on who you're going to
Hmm.
choose. And I know for me, like, that would have been forever, like, who's the right person and all of this stuff.
Hmm.
So basically, the way I narrowed it down, like of you go onto the sperm bank website and it was like a dating profiles and I just was like
Hmm.
flipping through and I was like, I narrowed it down by like my cultural like where I come from and then, if the person seemed kind, like
Hmm.
that was it. And so, I wanted that was like the utmost importance to me. But I think the process was hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's hard to do something different. Like no one
Hmm.
I think I knew one person who had done this before me, like in my life. And it was hard. It was hard. My brother and I are very close and he has a child and he was like, "Alina, like not that he wasn't supportive, but I think he was really trying to get across how hard it is to have a child and the idea of doing it alone. He was like, "I'm just, worried about you." And then I think it was my mom had to grieve like this non-traditional way of having a child, like it's not what she expected. I was 30, I think I was 38 when I had my daughter. Yeah, almost 39. And so, I think she was still waiting for the right person to come along that I could have a kid with. Um, she so and then for me, it's like, how do I show this on Facebook? Like, who do I
Hmm.
tell? And not that I was ashamed that I was doing it, but it just was like there were a lot of things to wrap my head around because it just is different. It's not
Hmm.
the way most people have kids. I mean, nowadays things are very different, right? But like it just is not something that you hear about all the time. So one thing that was helpful is I got onto some Facebook groups of single mothers by choice. So they're like single mothers by choice 35 and older. Those were really helpful just to help me normalize like the process and what it looked like. And even after I had my daughter, like I went on there and I was like, what am I doing with this, and this? Technology has made it really a lot easier to get the resources we need to be able to like handle parenting. Um, but there was definitely a grieving process, in
Hmm.
doing it differently. And even after I had my daughter, like, having this child on my own and I am obsessed with her. Like I love her so much. And so, I think she knows that. But I had to like kind of just grieve not doing it with someone and just being like alone in it. And even as she got older and we, started making friends from daycare and stuff like that, it's like I was the single mom. And when you have kids who are young, it's like there's just not like it's not the age yet where people are getting divorced, if they do. A lot of my friends that have like they're very solid couples, but just I felt a little bit um I definitely felt the difference internally. Even if they didn't, I did.
Hmm.
So it's kind of grappling with some of those issues as I went forward in this journey.
Hmm.
It strikes me as I was hearing your story that like there's especially as it relates to your family that you're kind of going through this acceptance and grieving process asynchronously, right?
Mhm.
So there's like you're going through, okay, maybe I'm letting go of the idea that I need to be married and I need to be partnered in order to be a mother and I can do that. And then I make the announcement to my family And now it's my mom and my brother and other people around me who are having to wrap their heads around this being different, maybe exactly at the time that I would really wish that they would like be 100% on board with me and like, how can
Hmm.
we be here and support you, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I just wonder if you could speak to that at all, like what it was like for you to know this is a right thing for me and also see that your family is like having to do their own grieving process. I don't want to presume that they were unsupportive because it doesn't sound like they were, but just like for
Yeah.
you to witness that and not be totally in sync with you.
I think that's a great question. I think part of the process for me, like one thing about doing all that work on myself is that my family, I I love them. They're not my primary support system. Like my brother and I are very close. And so, he expressed concerns, but was always like 100% do what you want to do. My mom and I, over the years, have gone through iterations of our relationship, like any mother daughter, and so at the point that I decided to do this, I wasn't really like, I was like, okay, you can, like, it wasn't like I have wonderful friends and like a wonderful support system. So I think they were always so supportive that I didn't really need that acceptance per se from them. I wanted it, I would love it, but like, um, I felt like I got that cup filled elsewhere.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. Um, I do, what else? I did want to say something. There was one thing that had come to my mind. And now it's left me. So I'll just carry on. Feel free to ask any more questions.
What's been the biggest surprise about all of this for you?
How little sleep I get.
Just
Yeah, I'm so tired.
spoken
So
like a mother.
tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
How old is your daughter now?
she's 3.5, three and 8 months. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's hard. It's tiring, but she's very precocious and cute. Um, the most surprising thing. You know what? I think the most surprising thing is what we're capable of.
Mhm.
Like I didn't know when I look back on like the sleepless nights and literally like I didn't sleep train until she was 9 months, and everyone has different opinions of that, but like I was a zombie. I also had wonderful, I want to say too, I had wonderful support in my work environment. I was actually working for Yolanda and Shaman at the time, and they were just like such amazing employers. Give them a plug. Like they were just so supportive and so kind. I cry. They were so supportive and so kind, and so they were just like another family, So
Mhm.
they were so they were sorry
Mhm.
they were really wonderful. So that support was really important too. Of just like we had
Mhm.
like a very small uh, practice, and it was wonderful. So I think the most surprising thing is like looking at what we're capable of, even if we don't know it. So many people are like, I don't know how you do that. And I'm like, I don't either. Like you
Mhm.
just do it, and like it's just part of uh what like when you're pushed into doing something and you make a decision, you just do it. And in that time, like I just financially I had to kind of venture out on my own and start my own thing, and that has been like another thing of like building a practice while being a new mom. I dated like an early, like having like early like within the first couple years, and now I actually am in a very serious wonderful relationship with someone who's
Mhm.
become more of a partner, and potentially we'll see how it goes, but like is a wonderful partner in my life. So that's been another thing of like ongoing um identity of like, okay, well, I'm a single mother by choice, but then now I have someone, and it's like it's like things are always changing, and it's like I have no choice but just to kind of roll with like where life takes me, and that's so different than how I grew up. Like I was so always so like by the book and how to
Mhm.
do things, and now I'm forced, with this new non-traditional way of doing things to kind of be open to different ways, and not have to be so rigid in how things are supposed to look. And maybe that's just part of being middle aged, like getting into your 40s and like just having not caring as much. But I know maybe part of the bigger lesson in all of this is that it's all good. It's okay. It doesn't have to look a certain way for it to be okay.
And what's the generational legacy that you're hoping she carries forward?
Love,
Mm,
you know, presence. Um, I want my daughter to know without a shadow of a doubt that she is loved,
mm,
and that she always has a safe harbor in me, no matter what life throws.
mm. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she knows she's loved for sure.
She said the other day to my partner that she's like, "Do you know how you know when you're loved?" Like,
Oh,
I don't know how. He's like, when someone kisses you a lot.
oh,
She's like, it was
oh,
really cute.
that's great.
I'm a very affectionate mom. I come from like a Middle Eastern background, and like it's very affectionate. So yeah, I passed that on, and I got that from my mom. She was always very
Mm,
affectionate. Um, but I think we all are working on healing the wounds of our past and not
mm,
passing them on to our children. And some of the training I did as a registered intern and the relational life therapy stuff, that's a lot that I bring into both my relationship but also into my parenting, a lot of
mhm,
that. And I think about, as a therapist, we know about secure attachment and what that looks
mhm,
like. And I want my daughter to be securely attached. With that, she also needs, like, limits, like, she can't,
mhm,
she thinks she runs the show, and so
mhm,
that's, like, kind of part of the challenge of being a parent, right? Of, like, being that loving, nurturing presence, but also being like, "No, you're
mhm,
not gonna do this." So, I find that to be part of the balancing act now in this stage.
mhm,
Yeah. There were some parts of your story there, Alina, that I sort of resonate with being a single parent, though I came to single parenthood differently, right? Um, and I just spent the weekend with some friends camping, and I think when you're talking about the daycare people and that you're the only one who's, people aren't getting divorced yet at that stage. I'm like, well, I don't know
Mhm.
that it really gets easier because then there is this dynamic of, well, all the couples get together and then the one single person sort of throws off the dynamic of sitting down to how do we divide up teams playing board games, right? Like there's these things that seem really
Mm.
simple, but it's like an awareness. And not that it's a problem, it's just sometimes an awareness that like
Mhm.
I am the odd one out here or things are different or whatever. Um, and the friends that I was camping with this weekend, we have been friends for more than 10 years, like really great couple. Um, and I thought it it didn't matter that it was three adults and our kids. And where I'm trying to go with this is I think that we can have this awareness sometimes of how we are different or we don't fit the mold or what's to be expected. And that sometimes that can bring with it some anxiety about not fitting in or being othered. Um, and it also can be this real litmus test of like, but who are your people?
Mm.
Your people are the ones who don't stop inviting you to stuff because you
Mhm.
became single and now it's awkward to divide up teams for board games. Like those are your
Mhm.
people, right? Who don't care, right?
Mm.
It's the couple that doesn't make it weird that it's a group of three, right? Or it's in the
Mhm.
dating realm too, because also, right, I'm single and dating, and these are worries that I have. Like, what is that?
Mhm.
Who's gonna want me? Because I have come with these complications of kids and an ex,
Mhm.
and all the things.
Mhm.
Um, but that also is this litmus test of like, well, the people who want to be there with that, who aren't bothered by those things or figure out a way around them. It's like that's also part of how you know who's kind of worth hanging or keeping around.
Mm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And also kind of thinking about like when you were just sharing that, I was like, who do I feel safe around? Like, who does like when I'm around them, does my nervous system just feel like, oh, I can relax, you know? Because I relate, you know, I have a couple friends, like parents, like a better couple, and that like they almost feel like family. Like it's just so easy, right? And like, who are the people where whether it maybe has nothing to do with them even judging or having anything, but it just doesn't feel as, you know, easy or safe around them. And so it's okay to trust that. Like, who do I feel safe around?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think honestly, as our episodes continue and we talk about lots of stories, lots of different realms, we do always come back to community. And I think I wasn't expecting
Mhm,
that when we started this podcast necessarily. But
mhm,
even as you were sharing your story at the beginning, it was like, oh, I don't know anything about this world, but you found there's enough people who have done the same thing that you were doing, that there's a whole group and they are able to offer suggestions or their experience, share their stories, give you some guidance there, right? But then ultimately finding probably a mix of people who have a similar experience or going through something similar with people who are different enough that make you feel safe, that it's like a whole enriching world that we all
mm,
create from
yeah,
this. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, if you look at any type of minority and finding community, like even someone who struggles with alcoholism or, you know, substance abuse, and they can find community within 12-step programs and find healing there, or, you know, the LGBTQ plus community. You know, not that that has to be your sole identification, but
Mhm.
it's like a support. You know, it's kind of like a pillar versus it being, you know, a cage. It can be something that allows you to step into the world more authentically and fully.
And my guess would be that in these online communities that you have sought support from, that now you're offering quite a bit of support as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, I try, it's busy. It's hard to like get on there and answer,
Mhm.
but like yeah, you've been like when someone's having like a newer kid, you're like, "Yes, I know exactly what you're going through." And you
Mhm.
know, being in a relationship now, it's kind of like a different iteration of that because it's like there are people who are like now judgment like, "Oh, well, you're not, are you really a single mother by choice
Right.
because you're in a
That's so
relationship and
interesting. Yeah.
partnered?" And you know, there's like all of that. But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, um, yeah, it doesn't really matter. And I think those communities, like in any of those communities, there are going to be people who feel threatened when there's change or when there's like something that might threaten the community. But at the end of the day, like, you know, if if we're all there kind of to support each other and just try to like get through some of the hard parts of this world better, then that's really all that counts, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if there's one message that you find yourself sharing in those communities, what might the primary message be, or what would you hope
Um,
to be able to tell people?
hmm. I think like to new, like specifically to new single mothers, right? Like in that community, I would probably just say like, don't sweat the small stuff. Like it's all
Mm.
gonna be okay. You know, like this too shall pass. Like it's whatever you're going through that feels really big is not going to feel big in a few months from now or in a year. Um, and then I guess for anyone really considering this path, you know, like being a non-traditional way of becoming a parent, I would say like buckle up.
Mhm.
And also like all the feelings are okay. Like it's okay to be happy and joyful and also grieve it not looking a certain way, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's okay to be completely fulfilled in your role as a parent and still feel unfulfilled in other areas, right? Um, and like at the end of the day, it's really about just, I mean, all really like love, right? Like it's just,
Mhm.
you know, like being a parent is love. And so it's like, why not? Why wouldn't you want to do that even if it means not doing it with someone else? Like that doesn't take any of the love away.
Mhm.
There's actually a lot of benefits from being a single parent. Like you get to
Mhm.
make all the choices. No one, you don't have to deal with like in-laws. It's great. I think my mom realized that very quickly. She's like, "Oh my God, we get this kid all to ourselves. This is amazing."
That's great.
Yeah. So, I think there's, trying even when it's hard, like trying to look for some of the good parts
Mm,
because it won't be without its challenges,
mm.
like anything.
We did not talk about, Yolanda, how we were going to wrap these episodes.
Yeah,
If we were going to do it the same
that's
as we normally
yeah,
do, or if there's anything else that anyone wants to say.
yeah. I actually was going to check to see if there was anything else that Alina or anything else that the two of you wanted to say before. Alina, usually the way that we wrap up is to just by check-in, by asking you if, what your heart knows to be true about this.
Mm,
So,
okay.
so if there's anything more that you would like to share that feels important about your story for the community to know, and especially other women who might be listening who find themselves in a similar spot as you.
I think the last thing I would say is that, and I guess that's before the wrap up, but like thinking about a community, I know that knowing that someone else had done this, like that I had seen someone else do this, even put the idea in my mind that it could be done. So I think like, you know, the more people that do things that are maybe non-traditional, other people can see that, oh, this is an option even, right? So like my best friend, who's also a therapist, her childhood best friend just had a son through,
Mm,
like as a single mother by choice, and it's interesting that this person has like two very close friends who've done this, taken this route. And I'm not saying I had anything to do with that. I'm just saying like maybe even just putting it out in the universe that this is an option. It's like we
mhm,
taking the road less traveled, it kind of makes that road more um, easy to travel,
mm,
and makes those options like available. So I think that whatever it is that's not what I thought it was going to be, it's like, oh, I see that this is an option, like
mm,
that this could be something that I or someone else could do, which is kind of
mm,
cool. It's just hard being that one. Like in the like I think about a lot of the journey that I've been on, like I feel like I don't have a map, and maybe there are maps out there for other people, but like
mm,
it's like I'm sure you all can relate. Like you're walking into the woods and you're just charting new territory, whether it's in your family, like in a new generation. We're just like uncharted territory, and that's like Brene Brown stuff, braving the wilderness. You don't really know, but you're just kind of taking a step into the unknown, and having people who've done it, even though they can't necessarily provide you a map, they can at least say like, "Hey, I got out of the woods," and you can too at some point. You know.
mm. I love that. Alina, what does your heart know to be true?
That right is not always easy.
Mm,
Um, and that community and support is really important along the way.
mhm. Becca, as you've been listening, what stirs in your heart to be true?
Mm.
That if we go far enough into the wilderness, we will find community.
Mm,
There's little pockets of people gathered around campfires,
mm,
all in that dark and confusing mess, and we just have to find them, and then we don't have to do it alone.
mm,
But sometimes it's scary when you don't
mhm,
know that they're there yet or you haven't found your people.
mm, mm. Erica, what stirs in your heart to be true?
My heart's taken me in a little different direction, but
Yeah.
I think what I'm chewing on from Alina's story today and the mindset around it is doing some of this hard work up front feels
Mm.
like it's paid off in later being able to approach this hard situation, these challenges with a very expansive healing mindset, um, compared to I think how a lot of people kind of deal with their foods. You've kind of switched it on its head. I
Mhm.
want to take the things that went well in my childhood and bring that forward. And how am I going to do that in a way that makes sense and feels right and good and safe? So I'm going to be chewing on that today.
Mm.
What does your heart know, Yolanda?
Oh, my heart knows that courage is courageous and an inspiration. And Alina, thank you for having the courage to share your story and take your journey. And I just feel so lucky to have watched it and to cheer you on. And you're an amazing mom, and that little girl definitely knows she's loved. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us today.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure and appreciate you having me. And I'm excited to see who your next guests are. I will be
Yeah.
tuning in.
Yeah.